So I'm just thinking, like, say, for example, the sign holder, say, Mangakino Service Centre, is it going to have the line, or is it going to have this, or would it have the leaf?
What do you think, Kirsten? What would be your preference?
Well, I think we already made the decision in the last training. The decision was made. If you're the area manager for Mangakino, your business card would have their on their one. And if you work for Turangi or Turangi Library or something, it has the Turangi one on it.
That's what I think. I think there may be some questions to be answered as we go along. But yeah, if it's specifically for Mangakino, then I would say reduce the Mangakino one.
So we use the full Wi-Fi, we would have to use
That would be used on most of the other.
On the post office thing, the actual Taupo District Council.
So now they lose their other one.
this on the
Just before we go on, I'm just getting a little bit stressed with the crash in these speakers. We might as well just turn them off, I think, mate, because it's really starting to annoy me.
Oh, if we turn them off, we won't be able to.
Well, we've also got to concentrate and do a job, but my head's just starting to go bang, bang, bang for the noises through these speakers, and I don't know if everybody else is feeling the same way, but it's really starting to get on my schnoz. So either stop or turn it off, please, mate. Councillor Kirk.
I totally agree with the common sense approach. You know, we've already adopted this amazing brand, and I think that consistency is really important, and I don't like the Wi-Fi, you know, being gifted from 92.4 is really special, but I don't think introducing another logo is a good idea. Like if you're going to put it on rubbish trucks, annual plans and everything else, and now that we're district inclusive, I think we need to stay with the original Great Lake Taupo logo. So I totally support that we adopt the Taupo District Great Lake Taupo branding, but I'm not in support of bringing in another alternative being the Wi-Fi.
Okay, Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, just don't see like Kirsten on the same wavelength, not quite explaining, like Turangi-Tongariro, the public library would have the fish over it as the public library. That's what we're sort of saying. You still personalise it in that district for your council buildings where we're heading. Like that's what personally is what I'd like to see. You know, like the main branding, but obviously public library, Turangi would have the fish. They're local to give it some identity to that area, just because we've got these little identities for the area, so it reinforces that from council level. That's the Turangi area, that's the Mangakino area. And it still stays within the branding we've already chosen.
We've chosen libraries, I think, at the district library, so you know, I think I'll talk to Louisa about that and let them make that decision, almost, because she's the manager of the libraries. But I'm open to,
We have these three distinct brands, so we like...
Well, with all due respect, I think government is making this decision. There's been a process that's come from the last triennium with different people at the table to this triennium. I have to support what Councillor Kirk says. It's bad enough changing things when people in the district don't like things change. I don't want to go out and see another one of these, I think they were called lifesavers and all sorts of things on phone calls I got, and have another something on the top of it. We are what we are. What this was all about today is trying to just move this forward a bit more, so we see more of it in the district. Let's not lose momentum. But I certainly couldn't support another co-library. Which one should we stick on this library? Which one should we stick on that library? At the moment, I'm comfortable that if you're a Mangakino, you use the Mangakino one. It's what we built up, Councillor Hackling, over 2 years of workshops and hui's and goodness what it's been, as it's already been out to Turangi-Tongariro and all the necessary people in the consultation process in the last triennium. Everybody was happy that I don't like to see it change, I just want to see it get used more. But I'm fully in agreement that we shouldn't just go out and spend a whole lot of money carte blanche. If you buy a new vehicle, use it. If some signs need replacing, as we need to, we just slowly bring it in rather than just go out carte blanche and rip down perfectly good signs, you know. I think we need to introduce it and prioritising it like this, I think, is an excellent way to do it. So, we know where we are. Councillor Downer?
Yeah, I don't think that we are changing. I mean, we've decided on this, and this is what the process we're going through now, is whether the macron changes up the top or not. That's all. It's just a simple, it's not actually going through...
so you think we can go Wi-Fi on the top of the job? I've never seen in my life in the last 2 years of all this before.
Well, they did. They had 3 or 4 different examples when they were presenting to us.
We chucked out. We accepted Turangi's, Mangakinos and Taupos in the last triennium. We all accepted it, Mangakino accepted theirs, they were explained why, it was the flow of the water, the trout was explained why, everything was explained why. I don't see the point in bringing in another one, we haven't even workshopped, let alone consulted on.
Yeah, on that, I still think, yeah, we're reinforcing that strong branding that town has started bought into. And so, as much as Mike, we're not branding experts, but that's what they've given us, and that's what everyone's buying into, so we just push forward and reinforce that branding.
Well, management has presented it to us today, so I'm just agreeing with what something that's used is presented, and I've got the right to agree with that.
Yeah. And everybody's got the right to do it. If you want to sit down at this table now, I'm not sure whether you could do it after the consultation process and everything been through. I'll always stand corrected. If you want to vote en masse, which means the majority, to have the whai on top of there rather than, is it making a fourth one, or are we just going to, someone will just decide one day, oh, well, this truck will have the whai on it and that one will just have the straight macron, or are we dropping the macron out now? Well, what are you actually suggesting here? Yes, please.
Probably just to help to move things along, taking it back to sort of the beginning, when Cato sort of first presented the idea and we got the major buy-in, was that the idea was that we would have the Taupo 360 circle with the macron, with the macron as the straight line macron was the major brand, but his words were, and we need to have fun with the macron, we need to develop ideas around the macron. So even back then when Cato introduced the brand and we adopted it, we still hadn't decided where we were going to use the macron and why. And I think there is huge potential for the future to decide on where we use the macron. Even with the AC baths, the macron could be somebody diving into the water. It doesn't really matter at this point in time. The key is that you align yourselves with the major brand, which is the top level Great Lake Taupo, and then possibly over time decide whether there are any other appropriate uses for other types of macron that may be project specific, they may be location specific, but they certainly don't apply to Taupo District Council, which is a district-wide council. And my recommendation to move it along is if you want to have a workshop to discuss other uses of the macron, then by all means arrange that. But at this point in time, we're talking about a global brand, the adoption for Taupo District Council, which should be the base document that we're all working from, which is the very top level there. And then that would progress you through this stage and possibly onto another stage to decide on whether there are to be any other uses for the macron or any other types of representation for the macron.
Well, me personally, I certainly wouldn't like to see Taupo Football Club and a guy diving for a try, or Taupo motorway track where a Formula 1 car going like this or something. I mean, there's enough people that have sort of got enough to say about this as it is. I just like to stick to it.
Through the Chair, I think the strength in the Absolutely Positively Wellington brand, which was a very successful brand, was purely that many businesses in Wellington adopted the Absolutely Positively My Business type of brand. And they did play with it, they did have fun with it, and that's where they got the majority of buy-in, was people having fun with a base brand. So just
I thought it was brilliant, absolutely positive. I don't know where the fun came from, but I was sort of just brilliant. Every game of rugby I watched, but absolutely positively Wellington, but it's got a football field.
Yeah, but they turned it into Absolutely Positively Cleaning, or Absolutely Positive. The people in Wellington played with it.
And I've got,
once we change the image on the top of the 360 degrees, then we change it to a whai or a swimmer or something, it doesn't become a macron anymore, does it? It's not a macron, it's something else. So it's either a macron or it's not a macron.
Well, like I say, and the way Cato explained it, sorry through the Chair, the way Cato explained it was that the macron is on top of the Taupo 360 as a visual brand for Taupo. That's the base layer, that is the foundation that we build everything else on. That was just to paint the picture that we wanted to name this place Taupo, or we wanted to recognise it as Taupo. However, Cato at the time presented many different scenarios for that macron. Not because we wanted to retain the macron per se, it was the fact that we wanted a representation of a macron, but to have fun with it. So it's not actually the line that is actually the key element, but for the base brand, it's the whole picture.
I think one of the things that we had internally is people were wanting to have their own little, they wanted to be different, they wanted to stand out, so we could look at having all different macrons, but where we've got to now is, no, let's just be consistent.
Yeah.
So,
Councillor
I'd like, can I move this to
You can signal their intent to do so, which I will accept. Yeah. Because if you read the suggested resolution, it doesn't say anything about the firefighters or those other things above there.
Oh, Macron, just any representation of a Macron.
Yeah, Taupo Yacht Club that has a big yacht on top of it. Doesn't say anything about that. It says that the logo and brand be adopted by Taupo District Council. And I thought that was already done, but I might be wrong. So that the Great Lake Taupo logo and brand be adopted by Taupo District Council. That's what Councillor Kirk was signaling her intention of being moved to. And that council collateral materials and property is prioritised as per this and is updated on an ongoing basis as resources and finances become available. If there's no more discussion, I will accept the...
I just want to clarify that discussion, kind of confused me, but if I understand correctly, basically the only thing we're discussing here that's a difference is to whether we have the macron or the other icon over the is that correct?
No. What we're actually talking about...
That's really a side field. We shouldn't have even probably enforced that. What the Chief Executive Officer is saying is you can put anything above there. He's saying have fun with it and that'll become your macron. That's actually not even an agenda here, so really we should just put it to one side. We're not deciding, we're adopting that as you see on the board.
So all we're doing is on the resolution.
You what?
You're replacing the track.
Yeah. At the moment you see sometimes, and you've all got them, the triangle, the trout and the mountains in the background. That will eventually be phased out, not tomorrow, not in one big foul financial swoop, just as and when we can. When we need new stuff, we go to that, to the original. Yeah. So I will, if there any further discussion, I will allow Councillor Kirk to be the mover of the two motions, numbers 1 and 2. Is there a seconder? Yep. Seconded, Councillor Johnson. Does anybody want to speak against that at all? There being no speaking against, there's no point speaking for it. All in favour? Carried. Thank you.